Sit back and enjoy our mystic reflection on the previous week in Star Wars Unlimited. Welcome to the podcast where we discuss how to outmaneuver your opponents. I'm Faith and I'm here with Jrod, and we are once again recording early in the morning, so there is no dudeness today. This was a pretty quiet week, so there's not much to discuss, unfortunately.
Wait. You realize that GenCon happened like all week, right?
What? Really?
Yeah, it's like the biggest convention of the year. All the biggest news. Like, have you been sleeping under a rock?
Was Star Wars Unlimited there?
Absolutely.
What did
You
they
didn't
talk
hear about
about?
the big news?
No, what did they talk about?
Oh, well, they revealed those two starter leaders and some cards for Set 3, Twilight of the Republic.
What? Really?
Yeah, and GameGenic had some great stuff to reveal as well.
Well, what was revealed?
Whoa, we have 4 mats. There's a Darth Maul mat, a Yoda mat, a Battle Droid mat, and then some speeder bike mat as well.
Let me pull this up. Let me pull this up so I can see.
Okay. All right.
You keep talking.
All right. Well, we had 4 art sleeves as well. We had Grievous, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Maul sleeves. We got 2 new deck boxes as well with Obi and Ahsoka art on those. And we got 2 other sleeve arts, which one is Ahsoka's white sabers and the other one is the dark saber. And if you've been listening to this podcast for a while most people in the Star Wars Unlimited community thought that the first 4 sleeves were all the aspects, I was the one hoping that it was going to be lightsaber colors. And it seems like my guess is correct, that they're lightsaber colors, according to GameGenic, officially stating that at this convention. So super rad stuff there.
Ooh, that is interesting. So out of those mats, what was your favorite?
Absolutely the Darth Maul. And it's not even close. The Yoda one looks cool, but the Darth Maul one looks amazing. I am a little saddened that we get a Battle Droid mat and not a clone mat. I was very bummed about that. I would have loved to have seen a clone mat, as it is the Clone Wars. So it would make sense to have that, but it's okay. The arts look amazing. I don't love the green one personally, but the other 3 are phenomenal. I would love to have those in my collection. Be a fine addition to my collection, you could say. So
I think I'm excited for when I'm looking at these now. I think I'm excited for the Yoda one and the Darth Maul one as well. The Darth Maul one looks really cool. I wonder, and now that I'm looking at some other things, the Maul one has me thinking, but the Yoda one, I think Yoda's a really cool character, and seeing him not in the elderly form that we saw in set 1, but in a more active form in this set, really excites me to see what they do with him.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that he'll be a legendary in the set and probably be a pretty sought-after card. So super excited to see what they do with that. Obviously, it's all speculation. We don't actually know, but it's just my guess. Since we're seeing him with a lightsaber, he's probably about to go dual Sidious. Spoiler alert if you haven't watched episode 3. If you haven't, while you're listening to this podcast, go watch that first and then come back. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely, I think, what we're going to get, like that version of Yoda in this set, which is probably his peak form that we get to see on screen. So,
and I'm looking at this picture as well, and it looks like we got some sleeves as well.
Yes. So, like I had mentioned, we got Grievous, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Maul for art sleeves, and then we also have the Star Wars Limited lightsaber sleeves. So we have the dark saber, and we have Ahsoka's white blades. I guess they're not technically Ahsoka's officially, but like she's the one that mainly uses the white saber on screen. So we're just gonna say they're hers for now.
Well, so looking at the sleeves, it looks like the art styles of Grievous and Ahsoka are the same, and the art styles of Maul and Obi-Wan are the same. Considering that I'm seeing that the first 2 are starter leaders. And last set, we had the Rey and Kylo as the showcase. Their showcase versions that were on the sleeves. Do you think this means that Maul and Obi-Wan are going to be leaders, and these are their showcase versions?
Last set, Kylo and... Oh, they are leaders, you're right, yeah. So that's very possible then. That's probably the case. They'll probably also be leaders. I mean, I think it would be hard-pressed to not get an Obi-Wan leader in the Clone Wars, as he's one of the most important generals for the Republic. And then Darth Maul is just a fan favorite. Like, everyone's going to want a showcase of him, so they would be silly to not put him as a leader to get showcases, because it'll be a top-selling showcase for sure. So it'll be... I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case.
So
in
if
this
these are
set here.
showcases, what do you think of their art so far for this?
I love Obi-Wan. I do wish we got the him pointing with the two fingers out Obi-Wan pose.
Mm,
Is my only minor gripe, but just because what he's really known for, like this, like, and he does have a defensive style of saber usage going into my nerdum here. So like his stance currently is kind of correct, but it's I would just love to have the cool like two fingers saber stance that he is like known for.
yeah, with like
But
Sarisu and stuff.
yeah, I mean it's my own. It's like the art's still great. It still looks great. It looks like way better than we've had in like set one. Set two had great art too. So like they definitely seems like they've gone in the correct direction with the art in this game so far, and I'm much more happy with how the art has been done in the newer sets. So I'm hyped for this set. I can't wait. Also at Gen Con, we had Poe Dameron, I think it was. He's a YouTuber. I'll put his link in description of the video here. He was awesome enough to stream one of the tournaments, but also yesterday afternoon he had an interview with Tyler Parrott, who is one of the lead designers on Star Wars Unlimited. And if you haven't watched that, check it out. It'll be on his channel that I will link below. And Tyler said that this set was the first time they really tried their best to push like what is it like the conventions of what aspects do. So like right now we think of control as blue green villainy. However that looks for you, but that's typically the shell that you're going to be in. If you want to play aggro, you're going to be in red heroism in some sort with a different color attached. So that's where aggro kind of holds. And then mid range, there's a couple little mid range decks floating around, but typically the control and aggro are on those two sides. One's villainy and one's heroism. And this set, they're really trying to swap that around. Apparently, according to Tyler, where he wants to really push what kind of control would look like, either for a different aspect in villainy or maybe on heroism side, which is what I'm hoping for in aggro, either pushing it to a different color in heroism or on the villainy side, which I think Faith is definitely rooting for as well, because Faith likes his villain decks and wants to be more aggro about that, right?
I want to be a little bit more mid. Yeah, I want to be mid range, and if they're already control, if they're mostly control and there's some aggro, that gets me to that mid range point that I want to be in.
Yeah. So I'm super interested to see what he means by that. It sounds super exciting. I'm a big like I definitely lean more like my two favorite characters is Rex and Ahsoka. Like I definitely lean more to wanting to play heroes, but I will at least Spike and me will always play what's good. So if it's not good, it won't play it, which is why I've been playing a lot of villainy in the first two sets because it's been some of the better decks to play, and I don't really love being like the hyper aggro deck. So Sabine wasn't something that spoke to me. But I mean, with this new set, man, this has me so hyped for. I was already really hyped for set three, like already planning on buying 2 cases, like all this going all in this set, and then hearing that makes me like just I need all the cards now. Please spoil them all right now. I don't even want spoilers for us. Just give them all to me in one big dump right now, like tomorrow, and I'll be happy. Obviously,
Yeah,
they won't do that.
We won't tell anyone if you give it to us. Don't worry, we'll keep it a secret.
No, I want to tell everyone to see it. I'm not being greedy. Give the people what they want.
Well, we're looking at some of these preview cards finally for the first time.
Oh.
You can see some of this idea that they're kind of switching aspects, because in set 1 and 2, heroism was a little bit more of our go wide aggro strategy. I'm looking particularly at green heroism. That was kind of their identity. And when we're looking at this idea, and then villain was more of these big bang, two kinds of token units, battle droids and clone troopers. And these battle droids are villainy, and they're looking like they're going to go wide, as opposed to the clone troopers, who are in heroism, which they're a little bit more bigger, stronger, fortified units. So in that way alone, we're getting a switch on the hero being the go wide strategy, and villain being the go big strategy, go tall strategy, to now maybe the reverse.
Yeah, so battle droids are 1/1s and clone troopers are 2/2s. So if we read off a card and it says create clone trooper, it's going to be a 2/2, and if it says create a battle droid, it'll be a 1/1. Just for that moving forward.
Okay.
So to go along with, I mean, both of them are kind of going to be able to go wider, than any deck we've seen in Star Wars Unlimited so far. Like even the decks that were going wide in the current format didn't go wide compared to how decks can now go wide because they're making like tokens. Like think of like Power of the Dark Side, how important that card is in this meta. And like with this, all these tokens coming out, like I imagine that card to fall out of favor a little bit in certain matchups. Like that could end up being a sideboard card, as crazy as that sounds, because of the tokens that are generated, depending on how many cards we get that are good at generating tokens. So we'll see how that changes up a lot, because the token units can be problematic, and with some of the keywords that we have here as well that we'll get into in a moment here, could really change how the game's played, which is awesome that we're already seeing some of this in set 3, because of how early on in the game people don't usually take giant leaps sometimes. But this is super cool.
So what are the new keywords that they're adding to the game?
Yeah, so I am going to talk about Ahsoka Tano, as she is one of my favorite characters. And she has one of the new keywords. So she is one of the starter deck leaders for the hero side. She is Aggression Heroism. And her keyword is Snips. That's her nickname if you haven't watched the Clone Wars. Her keyword is Coordinate. And then her action is you can exhaust her, attack with a unit. It gets +1/+0 for his attack. And it says gain this ability when you control 3 or more units. So if I have 3 units on the board, I can attack with a unit and give it +1/+0. That's a good front side. Obviously, you need to have the 3 units, so that can be some suspect sometimes. Like the way we think about the game right now, it's like you're lucky to have 2 on board, so to have 3 is kind of tough. But with all the token units, typically you'll be playing a unit, and that unit will make another unit as a token, and that's likely how you're going to be able to pull off the Coordinate keyword. She is an epic action for 5, so if you have 5 resources, she deploys, kind of like Han 2, or the Red Han from last set, and she's also a 3/6, just like he is. So she's very similar stats in Han 2, who's been a very good leader so far in the current metagame, so that bodes well for Ahsoka. And one thing that she boasts that Han does not is that she's a Force user, so if you want to lean into, like, I know Han Blue right now is pretty popular with some of the Force stuff, so she might be even better option potentially for that. So we'll see how that turns out. But when she flips, she still has Coordinate, so you need to have 3 units, and she would count herself. And it says this unit gets +2/+0. So that means for 5, she could be a 5/6 leader, which is quite powerful. Because again, there's only 2 other leaders that have 5 attack or more. One of them being Darth Vader, and the other one being Kylo Ren.
IG-88.
Oh, yep. And okay, well,
who also deploys at 5.
Only 2 other good leaders. Although he could be better this set. Who knows? Because all the droids out, so we'll see. But yeah, so there's only a couple of leaders with 5 attack. That's a very key number, because you only have 30 or 25 HP, so 5 is like a pretty big break point for the math. So I think she's a very interesting leader. I don't know if she'll be hyper competitive, but I will definitely want her showcase, and I will, if I don't pull it or pull one I can trade for it, I will be probably purchasing this showcase because I love her. And I'll be broke, but it's fine.
Jrod, it looks like Coordinate just is an ability which always gives attack buff.
There's other ways, but basically the Coordinate is just you get a bonus if you control 3 or more units. So like we can look at quickly Anakin Skywalker, who's also in the starter set. He is a 5-cost Aggression Heroism ground unit. His tag is Maverick Mentor, and he's a 6/6 Force Jedi Republic. So some great tags there. Who also has Coordinate, which is on attack, you may draw a card. So if you control 3 or more units and you attack with Anakin Skywalker, he gets to just draw a card, which is great. He has the same stats as Poe Dameron, and I actually like what they're doing here. It seems like here's the best card from the previous set, looking at Vader and Poe, and then in the next set they have a card looking at Maul and Anakin Skywalker that kind of pair with that. Like it's slightly worse in some instances, sometimes a little bit better, because obviously Anakin's a Force user where Poe is not. So it's like a weird, like, those cards are raw power better, but these cards can fill in the slot for a cheap budget option if you wanted to, which I kind of don't know if it's intentional, but I want to ask the developers that, because if it is, it's an awesome way to run the game. So that way, clearly the better card is the other ones that are more expensive, but you can still put these in your deck and not feel like, man, I can't spend $60 on Poe, so I can't play that deck, but popping an Anakin from the starter set could easily fill in slots for Poe in most decks.
Yeah,
So
there's different design philosophies when it comes to games. Yu-Gi-Oh, for example, is one game which has these $100 cards, and then they'll reprint it in a $30 tin or something a little bit later, which just totally drops the price of that card. So the fact that these are mechanically unique cards, meaning that they're not just straight up replacing the old
mhm.
card, and they're different. They're not. I'm not going to say worse because you're right. They have different things that they're doing, and they have different kind of things they lean into. So it allows you those other cards to not lose their kind of what their role that they're filling, while at the same time giving a more budget option, a
Yeah.
simpler replacement.
I mean, I would say they're worse. Like raw power wise, they're worse. Like Poe has just so much flexibility where Anakin can only draw you a card, and you
But
have to
he's that
have.
force trade. He's that force trade as you talked
Oh,
about.
for sure, yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. Like there's like, but Anakin can't kill like Boba unit with ECL, right? He just doesn't have the attack for that.
Yeah, but and then where Maul though is able to be a
Compa-
difference because he's a 7/6 versus a 5/7.
Correct. But then Vader pulls out another unit, so sometimes you can pull a Sentinel out to protect. There's a lot of little niche things, but like the two legendary cards that I'm referring to have a much
Yeah,
higher raw power ceiling, but these other two cards, Maul and Anakin, are great fill-ins, I think, for budget options. So this is just a round of applause for FFG if that is what they're intentionally doing.
yeah,
I think it's a great idea, and I hope we see more of it in the future, allowing people to be able to play the game. Budget-friendly options is always something that I want because getting new players in the game is hard enough as it is. And if they see a deck where they can only build it with, hundreds of dollars, they're gonna be like, I don't want to play that game. So it's nice to see options like this come in, especially from the starter set as well.
yeah. I would agree with you there. I just because we mentioned with Ahsoka as opposed to IG-88, Ahsoka is a force unit as well, similar to Anakin, which will be
Yep.
an important part about her.
Yes, I agree. I did mention that in my spiel, but that's okay.
That's okay. Sometimes I listen to you, sometimes I don't.
Something with my girlfriend, honestly.
With that's coordinate. Was there
Yes,
another keyword you said?
there is. Did you want to go over this one?
Sure. I'll look at the exploit on Hailfire Tank. So, exploit is a keyword that while you play the card, you can defeat up to X amount of units, where X is the exploit cost, and then the card will cost 2 less for each unit defeated this way. On Hailfire Tank's an 8 cost villainy unit, ground unit, which is a separatist droid vehicle tank. That's a 7/6. So 8 for a 7/6 wouldn't be that good, but it's got this exploit too. So that means while playing the card, you can defeat up to 2 units, and then it's going to cost 2 less for each unit defeated this way. With villainy being able to make those 1/1 battle droid tokens, hopefully you'll have enough units to defeat, particularly having 2 of them. You can defeat 2 of those cheaper droid units, and then this becomes a 4 for a 7/6, which is very good.
Insane. The one
So
thing I want to know is, can you use exploit while using ECL? That's one thing that we'll have to get some rules clarification on. Because if you're able to, because like obviously this thing costs 8, so it wouldn't be able to be ECL. But like, does the cost going down? I imagine it's no for this card because it costs 8 on the card. I think ECL looks at that first. But like, I'm just looking at this, and like, if you could just pay 4 to ECL this bad boy in, like that'd be nuts.
So yeah, I don't think it will work for cards like this, but we do have another exploit card that we were spoiled a little while ago, and that is a Saw Adventress, which now that we know what exploit does, we can kind of look at that card in greater detail. She is a 4 cost unit, which would be ECLable, and then she's got that exploit 2 as well. So she can sacrifice 2 units and come out for quote unquote free.
Yes.
So being able to ECL that is significant because if your opponent thinks you're tapped out, especially after you attack, and you're able to bring out a unit and they like to play their leader because they think they're safe, that can be very spicy. Especially if you attack with a separatist unit, because she gets a buff if a separatist unit attacked.
Yeah, I mean, if they create a card that costs 2 that says create 2 1/1 battle droids on turn 1, you could then just sacrifice both of them and play her for free on turn 1.
Oh,
That,
oh yeah,
that
yeah.
I don't know if that card's gonna get printed, but and like if that was a card, you can just play Asajj in turn 1, and that sounds like pretty good. I mean, she can be open fired and she can be Power of the Dark Side and all that stuff. So, you have to be careful of when you're playing it or whatever. But definitely seems like a strong option. She would just be a 2/4, but if there's any 3/2s rolling around, she can easily just trade off with them real quick. So it's definitely a powerful mechanic, and I'm interested to see what other cards. I did see a nice combination here with Battle Droid Escort, which is a 3-drop ground unit, villainy only. It's a 1/1 Separatist Droid Trooper, but it says when played / when defeated, create a Battle Droid token. So if you play this on turn 2 rather, excuse me. Yep. It creates a Battle Droid when it enters, so itself is also a Battle Droid, and then next turn you could pay 4 and sacrifice both of those to play Hellfire Tank, and when Battle Droid Escort is defeated, you get another 1/1. So you'd have a 1/1 and a 7/6 on the battlefield on turn 3, which seems pretty good.
Or on turn 2, you can also play the Asajj, because you'll have that guy and the droid token he creates, and then when you sacrifice it, you sacrifice the Battle Droid Escort, you're going to get another token. So then you'll have that Separatist unit to attack with, which will then trigger Asajj's attack. So on turn 3, you're attacking for 6 damage with that.
Yeah.
So just some options.
Absolutely.
I do like the exploit idea seems a little bit more villainous than it does heroic, but like exploiting your units doesn't seem very heroic. And also the units being 2/2s, the clone troopers, meaning they're probably going to be a little bit harder to make, meaning that sacrificing them is going to be a little bit worse. So I wonder if it's going to live just in the heroic realm, where coordinate seems to be something that could be also in the villainy realm. But it is already actually.
Well, I think coordinate kind of represents teamwork. Like, hey, we have to do this together as a team, which is definitely much more heroic than the villainy side. And villainy is like, we have to stomp over our little people to get to do what we need, kind of thing. So I kind of like the thematics of those, because it definitely fits with the Separatists. Like the Separatists didn't care about the individual battle droids. They were like, yeah, just go in there and do what you want. We'll waste 1,000 of you to kill one clone trooper. Like, we don't care. We'll make more, right? Like, where like the clone troopers were like brothers in arms, and they were fighting for each other and protecting each other, and trying to get as many of the brothers out of the battles as possible safely, but still complete the mission. So I think both of those keywords really encapsulate what the Separatists and the Republic were doing, the ground forces were doing, which is kind of a cool sub-theme there.
That's true. So we're going to look forward to see what new cards we're going to get. These are just some small previews. One thing that I noticed quickly, doing some spreadsheet math for those that are unfamiliar with what that means, is when each card has a card number, and with it you can kind of learn some interesting things, because the card numbers are done in a certain way, which looks at aspects, card types, and then looks at a name alphabetically. And if you look at the Battle Droid Escort, and you look at Hellfire Tank, and then looking at one of the heroic cards, 332nd Stalwart, there is at least 10 numbers between the Battle Droid Escort, which is number 229, and with the Stalwart, 332nd Stalwart. And because of that, that means we probably are going, and my kind of intuition is we're probably going to get a decent number of all villainy and all heroic, or just villainy and just heroic cards. And what that will allow, just in limited especially, I think it'll make for some more interesting limited environment, because you can grab these cards if you have like 2 heroic leaders or 2 villainy leaders or 3 villainy leaders. It'll give you more options, I think, in limited to fill out your deck. So just a simple observation there. We also had another observation is we also have 257 cards this set, which was different than last set, which was 266, and one more than Spark of Rebellion, which was 266 for last set and 256 for Spark of Rebellion.
Okay. Very nice. All right. Well, we also had some pretty large events at GenCon. Do we want to talk about that now?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
All right. So we have 3 days. Obviously, as we're recording, this is Sunday, so the final day of action at GenCon will be happening today. So any events that happen today, we won't have reports on, but shout out to, I believe, it was Rebel Trader with Take the Initiative, who put this all together. So thank you very much for all your hard work on this. So day one, we had a plethora of leaders, and we have a bunch of lists all down to like the top 25, but we're going to talk about the top 8 for now, the top 8 best finishers. So we had Han won yellow, so double yellow Han, go 7-0 on the first day. We had a Krennic green, went 6-1. That's no ECL, just a green base. Boba won yellow, so mono yellow Boba went 6-1. Sabine ECL went 6-1. Sabine yellow went 6-1. Sabine ECL again went 6-1. We have Han 2 blue, so red blue Han 6-1, and then we have blonde Sabine or yellow Sabine went 5-2 for the finish of the top 8 for day one. It's a decently varied, day of decks. You have a couple Sabines, a couple of Hans, a Krennic, and a Boba in there. You go down the list a little bit further. Sabine definitely was like kind of like the probably one of the field's most prominent decks. So, that's some great stuff for that. Day 2 was a little bit more of a shakeup. We had some more different decks in here. Our friend of the channel, Wu, took down the whole event that day, going 7-0 with Kira ECL. If you want that full deck list, he has a currently free Patreon that you should check out, where he has the deck list that he brought to GenCon with him. So you should definitely pop it out. Like I said, it's totally free right now. It might change in the future, but for right now, it's free. But feel free to go check out that. Then we had Krennic green, again, no ECL, 6-1. Bobo won yellow, 6-1. Han won yellow, 6-1. Notably, the Han won 6-1 on day 2 was the same person who won day 1 yesterday. Krennic green again, 6-1. Sabine ECL, 6-1. Palp yellow, which is an interesting one, 6-1. And the deck of the tournament, I would say, for the second day, because it was streamed on Poe Dameron's stream, I'll link his channel down below, was a Hondo Blue Smuggle list, which was very interesting. It still kind of had
Shout out to George. Shout out to George. This guy is the winner of the tournament in my mind.
Yeah, George is clearly a very innovative deck builder, and he had his opponent's win percentage was the highest in the tournament. His opponent's win percentage was 71%, which, just for reference, like Wu's was 67, which is the next closest person. And after that, it's like 61 and like in the 50s. So having a 71% opponent's win percentage is still going 5-2 is a very impressive day for George, and making top 8 with a deck that no one was expecting.
And so we should also clarify that the fact that Wu goes with a 67.35%, he's always playing the way pairings work in Swiss pairings. You always play someone equal ranking to you, so he's always playing people who were undefeated in order to get undefeated himself.
Yep.
At the time when he played them, so
yeah,
that means
he did face George in the last round, because George was X-1 and Wu was the only undefeated going into the last round. So that was the only one time. Yeah, there's only one time where he did face someone that was paired down, but which is why George was the top 5-2, because he was the top 6-1 and then lost to the undefeated player. So
yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, no worries. And then the last day that we have stats here for, we have 2 Bobo yellows on top. One went 7-0, one went 6-1. Then we have Boba 1 green, 6-1. Hanchu blue again, 6-1. Kira green, 6-1. I don't know if that's ECL or not, just as green, but that's Mike Gem from KTOD. So congrats to Mike on that one. And then we have Ryan Warner, or Rebel Resources, as many of you may know, which Sabine yellow, his deck that he loves to champion as the better Sabine, which I think he's incorrect on, but hey, he went 6-1, so I guess you can't argue with that, right? So congrats to Ryan. And then we have Sabine ECL, run by Steven, 6-1, and the final spot for top 8 was Han 1 yellow, so mono yellow Han, 5-2. So you can really
something that's interesting about these standings, just in general. Sorry, I'm going to cut in there on you. Is seeing I'm seeing a lot of diversity, but then also seeing one thing I love about Star Wars is it's not just Boba. I mean, seeing this in day 3, you got 3 Boba at the top, but 2 of them are yellow and 1 of them is green. So even there's some diversity.
Mm-hmm. And if you look at the other 2 days, there was I think 1 Boba other than one in each other top 8 that finished in the top 8. Yeah. So this is the first day where Boba really had a strong finish, And I know, for example, Wu didn't play on that day. So I'm sure there's other folks who maybe didn't play all 3 days. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to see how the metagame kind of evolved over the weekend as well, because people are going back to their hotels and editing their decks and changing something and tweaking it, and you know. So I do really want to get my hands on this Han 2 blue list though, because that is, I think, I was liking the Ray. I've been playing the Ray Red, but I think Han might just do it better because you can cheat stuff out faster. So I'll have to try out that deck.
Yeah, definitely getting to play things like Luke out early is nice. Chewbacca is a fun card because it gets a little stronger as well. All some
Mhm.
interesting things. But yeah, especially day two, the amount of diversity in day two in the top eight there. You're seeing 7 different leaders, with my boy Krennic coming in the only one with being two, and that Hondo list. I am so loving the idea of that Hondo. I don't think it's a deck I would like to play personally, but just shout out to Charge for just taking a leader which was thought to be bad or limited only leader and making it into a top eight of such a big event. That shows some courage, and I shout you out.
Absolutely. Some good stuff from this weekend. So congratulations to everyone that got to go. I know the other content creators that got to attend got some awesome swag from FFG. I'm definitely not jealous. I know Kevin from Roll On Gaming was on Twitter as well, saying how jealous he was, and I was like, Kevin, we got to get to the next convention. We got to go, because him and I keep we both of us keep missing all the cool stuff. So but I will be at PAX Unplugged again. Anyone who's going to there, so cool. I'm trying to convince Faith to come. We'll see if he decides to come or not. He's still up in the air, but you never know.
You're correct. Yeah, it's just some fun things to see, and it's always great as well. I think this is probably consider the biggest tournament that we've had so far in Star Wars Unlimited.
Yep.
Previously, it was Store Showdowns, and there were some 1Ks and 5Ks as
Mhm.
well in there, of course. So I still kind of looked at Store Showdowns as the highest because it was kind of put on by FFG rather than by third parties, and this is put on with FFG in mind. But then we're going to be very soon coming up to those planetary qualifiers, which we talked about last week. So it'll be interesting to see how that will as well take the competitive stream of player, what they'll push themselves playing, and how, especially because they're 4 weeks back to back, kind of like in GenCon here, when one day might influence the next day, how each week will be influenced by each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, on that note, I think it's time we head out.
Sounds good. Wrap it up.
Thank you everyone for listening. Comment below which card from Twilight of the Republic that you're excited for, and which deck you would bring to Gen Con. We'll see you next time on Outmaneuver.
Later, everybody.